Osh, Boker Or, day 63 of Bekiim Bahalacha, Siman 5555. Okay? We were actually in the middle of a footnote. We were talking about the entire concept of the leniency of doing whether it's going to be Kaddish, Barechu, Hazarat Hashatz. We spoke about different opinions. It was machlokot, back and forth. So we'll just start again very quickly, but just from where it says therefore, even though we already read this. Therefore, even if a member of a minyan falls asleep, or if several of them begin conversing, that means they start speaking to each other, and they're not paying attention to the cantor's repetition. We're on page 190, right, on the right column, okay, where it says he may continue to the end, and right, and his blessings are going to be valid. Rabbi Yitzchak Atiyah stated that even when there's not going to be 9 people responding amen, the cantor's blessings do not really become blessings recited in vain. That means it does not become a brachal v'talah. Rather, those people are guilty of denigrating the blessings as if they were reciting in vain. That is the case if the people purposely and willfully ignore their obligation to listen and pay attention to the cantor, okay, to the chazan. Remember, whenever it says cantor, it's the chazan, okay, the shliach tzibur. But if someone falls asleep unintentionally, or if he's busy saying the amidah, he does count as a member of the minyan. The Rabbi challenged this thesis. He said, even if the chazan's blessings are not actually brachal v'talah, he must avoid putting himself in such a situation, right? And therefore, the two rulings in Shulchan Aruch seem to contradict each other. So Rabbi concluded by suggesting that there are indeed 2 opinions regarding this halacha. Technically, we follow the lenient opinion, okay, that in Siman 55, which is basically it's enough with 6, but in Siman 124, the Shulchan Aruch, he went with a stringent opinion, which is the Rosh, to emphasize how important it is Hazarat Hashatz. Everyone understood? Od pam, zot omeret, it was so chashuv, Hazarat Hashatz, he purposely wrote you down the shita of the Rosh, you need 9. But technically, mi'ikar adin, it's enough 6, just like the opinion of the Mari Berav in Siman Nun Hey, okay, in 55, to do with Kaddish and Baruchu. The Tarat HaMayim noted that Rav Chida suggested a resolution, right, and objected, and he says defending the position of the Drisha that needs for 9 people is no more than a stringency according to all poskim. Even so, the Shulchan Aruch chose the strong language that the bracha karov b'birchotav v'vatalah to emphasize the importance of paying attention to Hazarat Hashatz. When it's necessary, however, the Chazan may start as long as there are 10 people present, even if one person is still saying the quiet Amidah or has fallen asleep. I'm on page 191. Following the ruling of the Shulchan Aruch Siman 55, the Rishon LeZion concluded his discussion with reinforcement of this reconciliation. Therefore, if one member of the minyan spends an orderly long time saying his Amidah, and the others are anxious to continue their prayers, the Chazan may begin the repetition without waiting for the other to finish. This ruling follows the opinion of Maharam, Hagaot Mamiyot, the Maharil, and the Shulchan Aruch. In fact, the Mishabura actually agreed that according to Shulchan Aruch, the person reciting Amidah can be counted to permit the Chazan to actually come and start Hazarat Hashatz. Thus, the ruling stated here in Halakha 37 is universally accepted that a person recited in the Amidah can be counted to enable the people to recite Kaddish. The ruling stated in Halakha 38 to do with Hazarat Hashatz is a matter of a debate. According to the Shulchan Aruch, this is permitted as well. But according to the Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, the Ben Ish Chai, you have to wait until there are 9 people. Okay, Maran Rishon LeZion said that we could follow the lenient opinion of the Shulchan Aruch. Still, the Rishon LeZion added that it is preferable to wait until the 10th man finishes the silent Amidah. There's either deference to the stringent opinion, or in order that the 10th man should have an opportunity to, meaning you're being mizakeh oto. You're giving him the zechut that he's going to be answering. So therefore, it's like 2 different reasons. Okay, fine. The Or LeZion, he ruled in accordance with the Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and Ben Ish Chai, that one halacha applies to Kaddish and the other one applies to the repetition of the Amidah. Meaning the Or LeZion wanted to say Tzvei Dinim. You know what Tzvei Dinim means? 2 different halachot. Meaning, we thought at the beginning that Kaddish, Kedusha, right, and Barechu and Hazarat Hashatz, they're all Selam Shos, Bidiyuk Otodovar, right? It's always the same. It's not true. The Or LeZion now comes and he says 2 different halachot. And that's what he says in the Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach and the Ben Ish Chai. He wants to say that Kaddish and other things that apply is not the same thing. Kaddish, all you need is 6 people, right? But it's necessary to be. He says, but for the Or LeZion added that some people suggested that Maran changed his mind in Siman 124 and he rejected the halacha. Some people say it was Chazar Bo Maran, meaning Siman Nun Hey he paskin 6, Siman Kuf Kaf Daled 124 Hazarat Hashatz he retracted, and now he says you need 9 for everything. You understand? So that's what he actually does bring down. Now, what happens if 4 people are still saying the silent Amidah? Because beforehand we were always talking about one person. Meaning you had like you had basically it was just like the one person. Now, so he says like this: if 4 people are still saying the silent Amidah, this discussion has been about the situation where one of the 10 people present is writing Amidah. According to the Rav Levi ben Chaviv, this halacha is identical even if 3 or 4 people are saying the Amidah. The Chazan may start the repetition of the Amidah as long as 10 people are present, and the majority, which is at least 5 besides the Shliach Tzibur, right, are able to participate by responding Amen. The Magen Avraham, however, ruled that this leniency applies only when no more than one person is saying the Amidah, and that they basically have 8 people that are responding. The Mishnah Berurah cites the 2 opinions. The Yarabah and Derech HaChaim rule that the Chazan may begin the repetition although several people are reciting it, and only 6 or 7 people are available, whereas the Chayadam, only if there's going to be at least 8. So you see, that means this is a huge machloket, even the Acharonim. Does it apply to even more, like 3 or 4, or is it only basically 1? The Ben Ish Chai ruled that as long as there are 10 people present, even if up to 4 of them respond Amen, they can still be counted towards a minyan, but only for the sake of Kaddish Kedusha. They cannot be counted for Hazarat Hashatz. The Kavachaim also states that according to the Rav Chida, only 1 person can be counted, and there must be 8 people answering. But if the situation is quite urgent, up to 4 people can be counted for the sake of Kaddish and Kedusha. Again, you keep on seeing, right, that it's going to be for the Kaddish and Kedusha. Okay? According to the Menara Nishon Tzion, whoever can be counted in the minyan for Kaddish can be counted for the Hazarat Hashatz as well. It would seem that he would permit the Chazan to begin, even if there are going to be 3 or 4 people still in Amidah. But Kud Yosef, he specifically wrote that one of the 10 people is taking a long time, then you could start. So apparently the Rishon Tzion, he took into account those poskim that it's only going to be 1 person. Although he ruled leniently regarding to how many people to reciting the Amidah and the minyan can be counted for Hazarat Hashatz, he limited his lenient ruling to 1 person and not to more. The Halacha Brura seems to rule even more leniently. And Halacha 18 asserted that the rules are the same for the Hazarat Hashatz and for Kaddish. Halacha 19 ruled that up to 4 people could do it. That means we saw that according to Rav Ovadia, even he was ruling leniently, but only for 1. Meaning the Ben Ish Chai and the Kavachaim are saying that you need 9, right, answering. Rav Ovadia said even if one of them is in the middle of the Amidah, it's still going to be okay. So he was ruling lenient, but only 1. He wasn't lenient ad kedekach, like the other opinions, like the Rav Levi ben Chaviv and like the other ones as well, right? That the Yarabah and Derech HaChaim, no, that even 3 or 4. So the Rav Ovadia was machmir, but the Halacha Brura was more lenient. Although Maran Shul limited his leniency to a case of only 1 person, right? There's a solid basis in Halacha to rely upon the lenient opinion of Rav Levi ben Chaviv that could go even until 4 people as well. The Tivot HaChaim claimed that he heard from the Rishon LeZion that such a ruling verbally, but we may rely on it only when there's an urgent need, meaning only when mamash you really need to. If not, then not. By the way, you should know that's the reason why in Morocco and other places, obviously they went like the Ben Ish Chai, right, and like the Kavachaim and everyone else, because basically whenever there was exactly 10 people, they wouldn't do a Hazarat Hashatz. And the reason why was if you had to wait for everybody to finish Amidah, it would be Tircha de Tzibura. They would wait. You know how it is. There's always one guy that's always going to take one. So they would only do 1 Amidah if there was only exactly 10 people. Because if you're going to have to mamash wait for every single person to stop, to finish Amidah, it would be Tircha de Tzibura. So therefore they would do it.
Some people don't answer Amen.
That's also 100%. But this is that was one of the things that obviously that they were going like. So in summary, according to Maran Nishol and Tzion, if there's a bare minyan of 10 wishes to recite Kaddish Kedusha, they may do so, even if 3 or 4 of them are still reciting the Amidah. For the sake of the Hazarat Hashatz, however, they may count no more than 1 person, unless there's an urgent need to hurry and continue the prayers. According to the Ben Ish Chai, the minyan may recite Kaddish Kedusha, even if there are 3 or 4 of them still reciting Amidah, but for the sake of the Hazarat Hashatz, not even 1 such person can be counted. Okay, that means basically nothing at all. According to the Kavachaim Sofer, the minyan cannot count more than 1 such person if they want only to say Kaddish. Okay, so according to the Letzion, that means basically the Kavachaim was even more stringent than Ben Ish Chai, that even for Kaddish, you can't count more than 1. And according to the Letzion, the minyan should not rely on any leniency. They should not recite Kaddish if one of the 10 men is still present. Meaning Zohar Letzion is mamash, the stringency of stringency. Usually we go like the Ben Ish Chai, that for Kaddish it's okay, right? For the Hazarat Hashatz, usually you need 9. Again, you have what to rely on upon 1. Fine. Sefer Mekabtziel. Remember, that's also of the Ben Ish Chai. Okay, so the Sefer Mekabtziel says, Parashat Vaychi, the author, right, at first, repeated the ruling appearing in the Ben Ish Chai. The minyan may recite Kaddish, right? Even if there are 3 or 4 people saying the Amidah, the sign of the Amidah. Then he added, but regarding Hazarat Hashatz, one must make sure that all 10 members of the minyan are listening and responding amen. For otherwise, it can't be Hechal v'Tala. If one of the 10 has not yet finished reciting the Amidah, the Chazan may wait until he does. If it's urgent to continue the prayers, the Chazan may begin the repetition of the Amidah, even if he's still reciting Salam Amidah, but not if there's 2 people. We always need at least 9 people responding to the blessings. We see from here that the rulings of the Yosef Chaim they match those of the Rishon LeZion, except that the Rishon LeZion permitted the cantor to begin repetition while one member of the minyan is reciting the Salam Amidah, even when it's not urgent. And here he was only doing it only if it's urgent. Okay? Fine. Halacha number 39. Counting a sleeping person. Okay? Lamed Tet. If there are exactly 10 people in the Bet Knesset and they want to continue with the Hazarat Hashatz, but one person is asleep, it's best to wake him up so he could answer amen to the blessings. If for some reason it's difficult to wake him up, the congregation may recite Kaddish even without waking him up. The sleeping individual still qualifies as a member of the minyan. 351. Okay? 351. The Shulchan Aruch ruled that a sleeping person qualifies as a member of a minyan, as explained in Bet Yosef. This is based upon the Rabbeinu Meir of Rotemurg, Maram Rotemurg, that a person who's reciting the Salam Amidah can be counted as a minyan. Rav Yaakov Mari Berav, he actually, who Maran considered to be his mentor, deduced from this ruling that a sleeping person, can be counted as well for a minyan, for Kaddish and Kedusha. As long as 10 Jews are present, the Holy Shekhinah is still present. The Taz disagreed, okay, asserting that when a person is asleep, he loses a percentage of his inherent sanctity. He loses his Kedusha. Right? He cited the passage of Zohar Kadosh, Matthew says Siman 4, teaching that someone falls asleep, his soul leaves him and a spirit of impurity takes upon him. Such a person cannot be counted with, cannot welcome the Shlina. Moreover, he argued, why should the minyan count a sleeping person? Why they could easily wake him up. So the Pri Chadash, he agreed with the Taz, that technically they should wake him up. The Mishabra and the Ben Ishchai says the Mishabra cited this debate, right, between the two, and he ruled that it's certainly best to wake the person up, or at least bring him to a semi-conscious state. You understand? In the Biur Halacha, he added that if for some reason the person cannot be woken up, then they could rely upon the Shulchan Aruch, but only for the sake of Kaddish and Kedusha. For the Chazarat Hashatz, you shouldn't do Hazarat Hashatz. The Ben Ishchai ruled even more stringently than the Mishabura. Okay? One second, yes, but that's because of the tefillin. He says, according to some poskim, right, here we're talking about whether it's going to be minyan, whether it's going to be mincha, whether it's going to be shachrit of Shabbat, or it doesn't matter, Chol Hamoed. Right, he says, right. Then the Ben Ishchai was more stringent. He said, according to some poskim, if one of the 10 people are asleep, he can still be counted as a member of minyan and congregation. Say Kaddish. If 2 of the 10 people are asleep, Kaddish may not be said. Okay, may not be recited. It would be disrespectful to heaven to count 2 sleeping individuals towards a minyan. According to others, we cannot equate sleeping individuals to someone who's in the middle of Amidah. A sleeping person's soul is partially detached, so this sounds like the Taz. Okay, therefore he loses the degree of sanctity. On the contrary, a pure spirit envelops him. Even if he's napping in the daytime, therefore, even if one is sleeping, a sleeping person cannot be counted towards a minyan, Kaddish must not be recited until the sleeping person should be woken up. If he cannot be woken up, then they should not recite Kaddish at all. And the Kaf HaChaim agreed with the Ben Ishchai. So it comes out that they wouldn't do Kaddish at all, according to... without the Kaddish. The Rishon LeZion, what does he paskin? Because remember, the Mishabura was more lenient at the end. Again, he said lechatchila wake him up, but if not, fine. But what about the Ben Ishchai? The Ben Ishchai was more machmir in Kaf HaChaim also as well. But what about the Rishon LeZion, Rav Vadia? Talichot Olam cited these rules and pointing out to the Nahar Shalom and the Eliyah Rabbah that they actually argued on the Taz. Still, it's best to wake up a sleeping person. The Rav Chida, right, page 193. Likewise commented that the Taz arguments can be refuted, but he agreed to the sleeping, meaning that even if they're arguing on the Taz, that they're saying that the Taz is wrong, that all of a sudden, but they still say lechatchila wake him up, which was like the Mishabura as well. The response of Mishkenot Yaakov pointed out that there seems to be a contradiction between the rulings of Shulchan Aruch, because in Siman 124, Kukav Daled, which is Hazarat Hashatz, there must be at least 9 people listening, right? And otherwise, it's going to be so it's impossible to count a sleeping person in the minyan. The Rov Dagan, okay, he reconciled the ruling of Shulchan Aruch, pointing out that he did not write that the Hazarat Hashatz is going to be in vain. He said it's karov berachav, and it applies when the person in the minyan are capable of listening and responding amen, but they choose not to listen. If one of the 9 people is asleep and incapable of responding to amen, to the cantor's blessings, are still going to be valid. Based on this, Rishon LeZion ruled. Okay, listen carefully. Based on this, Rishon LeZion ruled that if can easily be accomplished, the sleeping person should be woken up. Okay, in difference to the opinion of the Taz. In this, he concurred with the instructions of Rabbi because of Ben Ishchai Mishabura. That means, wake him up if you can. If it's impossible to wake him up, However, the congregation still could say Kaddish while the person is sleeping, following the Shulchan Aruch and the Mishnah Brura cited above. The discussion here is about reciting Kaddish while counting a sleeping person in the minyan, right? Not about the Hazarat Hashatz. In a response and published in the first edition of Kusef, the Rishon LeZion deduced from the Bet Yosef that the same ruling applies to the Hazarat Hashatz, and it's likely the same applies to a case where one person is asleep. But what happens if you have more than one person sleeping? So the Rav Chida, right, cited the Bet David. Right? There's the Bet David right there. You have it right here. Okay? So the Bet David comes and he ruled that we may count one sleeping person, but not two. The Ben Yishchai agreed with this as well. Explaining that it would be disrespectful for heaven to form a minyan that way. Right? It's disrespectful. Okay? Right by your hand. Put your hand straight up. Right there. Bet David. Okay? The Mishnah Brura likewise, right, ruled. He says that we definitely cannot count more than one sleeping person in the minyan, even when the minyan is urgently needed. As explained in the previous halacha, if one of the 10 people present is reciting the silent Amidah, the cantor may begin the repetition. If 3 or 4 people are reciting Amidah, the cantor may recite Kaddish or Kiddusha, but he must not begin the repetition unless there's an urgent need for it. Have a wonderful day.